The unexpected bond. Jake Hawkins leaned against the sleek display of the latest galactic cruiser, his fingers drumming an idle rhythm on the polished surface. The vast expanse of the Zircon Prime Starship Emporium stretched out before him, filled with the latest models of interstellar vessels and a diverse crowd of alien customers. The air hummed with the soft whir of anti-gravity platforms and the melodic chimes of holographic displays. Neon-hued lights danced across chrome hulls, reflecting the various species that wandered past in search of their next cosmic ride. Another day, another commission, Jake muttered to himself, watching as a gelatinous blob with multiple eye stalks examined a brochure through what he assumed were its optical receptors. He couldn't help but sigh, his gaze drifting toward the far end of the showroom. There, working at one of the interactive terminals, was Zara. Even from across the floor, she caught his eye as she always did. Her skin, a mesmerizing gradient of deep purple to shimmering silver, seemed to pulse softly in the low showroom lighting. Her delicate features, framed by tendrils of what looked like living starlight, were beyond anything Jake had ever seen in his travels across the galaxy. He approached casually, hands in his pockets, trying to look more confident than he felt. Zara was typing something into the holographic interface, her long, slender fingers moving with practiced ease. Selling more starships with those dazzling looks, or is it the superior Zirconian data analytics again? Jake smirked, leaning against the terminal next to her. Zara's skin flickered briefly, the silver undertones deepening for a split second. She turned her luminous, opalescent eyes toward him, a small teasing smile playing on her lips. It's not hard to outsell you, Jake, when your best tactic is flirting with the customers. He chuckled, shrugging. What can I say? Works like a charm. Zara tilted her head slightly, her starlight hair cascading over one shoulder as she studied him for a moment. Be careful with the teasing, Earthling. You're walking a thin line. Jake raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the sudden seriousness in her voice. Thin line, huh? What's the worst that could happen? You finally laugh at one of my jokes. She gave a small, almost imperceptible shake of her head, her gaze slipping back to the terminal. Zirconians have a way of reacting to certain stimuli during our bonding season. You'd do well to remember that. Bonding season. Jake's grin widened, leaning a bit closer. Now you've got my attention. Come on, Zara. What's a little friendly banter? You know it's harmless. Her eyes flicked up to meet his again, and for a moment, there was something in them, something deeper than her usual playful demeanor. She closed the interface with a swift motion, the holographic screen dissolving into thin air. Harmless, perhaps. But during this season, even a human like you could stir up reactions you might not be prepared for. Jake blinked, her words momentarily catching him off guard. Wait, you're serious. Zara's skin pulsed, the silver glow intensifying before fading back into her usual calm purple. Entirely. Bonding season changes things for us. It's not something to be taken lightly. There was a weight to her words, a depth of meaning he hadn't considered before. Jake swallowed, suddenly unsure of himself. Teasing Zara had always been a game, one he thought he had a handle on, but now he wasn't so sure. Before he could respond, the entire showroom seemed to shift. A ripple of energy passed through the air as the towering doors at the entrance slid open with a low mechanical hum. The atmosphere thickened as a new presence filled the space. Krell Vor, the Zirconian trade magnate, entered like he owned the place, which Jake reminded himself he technically did. Krell's massive frame was covered in layered metallic armor that shimmered with strange alien glyphs. His head, adorned with sharp crystalline ridges, turned slowly as he surveyed the room. Behind him, two hulking bodyguards flanked his sides, their cybernetic enhancements gleaming under the showroom lights. Jake felt the shift in the room immediately. Customers whispered, and the showroom attendants snapped to attention, their movements stiffer, more calculated. Great, Jake muttered, straightening up. Looks like the big boss is back. Krell Vor had been in the showroom before. He was notorious not just for being obscenely wealthy, but for his unconventional tastes. Rumor had it he collected rare artifacts and beings from across the galaxy, and his interest in the showroom went far beyond mere profit. Zora's expression hardened the moment Krell stepped inside. Her skin shifted to a sharper, more defined purple, and she didn't say a word, but her eyes darkened as she watched the magnate approach. Krell's gaze swept the showroom, landing on Zora with an almost predatory glint. His lips curled into a grin that made Jake's skin crawl. Well, Krell's deep, resonant voice boomed across the room. Looks like the showroom has more than just starships to offer. Jake's jaw clenched. His instinctive reaction was to step between Krell and Zara, but he hesitated. This was a powerful alien, one who had the resources to crush anyone who crossed him. Still, Jake couldn't help the surge of protectiveness rising in his chest. "Back for another ship, Mr. Vore?" Jake asked, keeping his voice light despite the tension in his shoulders. Krell barely glanced at him, his eyes still locked on Zara. "Oh, I'll take the most luxurious vessel you have, Earthling. But I'm far more interested in—" His grin widened as he gestured toward Zara. "This one." The casual way he spoke about her, as though she were a commodity to be purchased, made Jake's blood boil. Zara's expression remained unreadable, but Jake could see the tightening in her posture, the way her fingers curled slightly as if ready for a fight. "I'm not for sale," she said, her voice calm but edged with steel. Krell chuckled darkly, waving a hand dismissively. "Everything has a price, Zirconian. Name yours." Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "She said no, Krell." Krell's eyes finally shifted to him, amusement flickering behind the crystalline irises. "And who are you? Her handler? Or perhaps her suitor?" Jake's hands curled into fists, but he forced himself to stay calm. "I'm her colleague, and you're out of line." The tension between them was palpable, a silent standoff that seemed to hang in the air. Krell's bodyguards shifted slightly, their presence a constant looming threat. Zara finally broke the silence. "You'll find another showroom more accommodating of your tastes, Krell. This one is not available." Her words were final, an icy dismissal that sent a clear message. Krell studied her for a long moment before his lips twisted into a smirk. "For now, Zirconian, but don't think this is over." With a sharp wave of his hand, he turned and left, his bodyguards following in his wake. The heavy doors slid shut behind him, leaving the showroom in tense silence. Jake let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding, glancing over at Zara. "That guy's a real piece of work." Zara's glow had dimmed, her skin returning to its usual calm purple. She nodded, but there was something distant in her expression, something troubled. Jake hesitated. "You all right?" She didn't answer right away, her gaze fixed on the closed doors where Krell had disappeared. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, almost too quiet. "You should stop teasing me, Jake." He frowned, caught off guard by the sudden shift in tone. "Zara, I was just—" "Trust me," she interrupted, her opalescent eyes locking onto his. "You don't want to find out what happens if you keep pushing." There was something in her voice, something that made the hairs on the back of Jake's neck stand on end. He had always seen Zara as mysterious, beautiful, maybe a little dangerous. But now, for the first time, he realized just how much he didn't understand, and that maybe, just maybe, he was already in too deep. As the showroom slowly returned to its usual rhythm, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. The playful banter, the flirtatious exchanges, suddenly, they felt like more than just a game. And as he watched Zara return to her work, her starlight hair shimmering in the neon glow of the displays, he knew that his life on Zircon Prime would never be the same. Little did Jake know, the true test of his feelings for Zara and his place in this alien world was just beginning. The Zirconian bonding season was about to throw his entire existence into chaos, and the consequences would ripple across the galaxy. Escape from Zircon Prime. The Zircon Prime Starship Emporium hummed with an eerie quiet as the twin suns set, casting long shadows across the gleaming vessels. Jake found himself pacing the showroom floor, unable to shake the tension from earlier. Zora's warning echoed in his mind, mingling with the predatory gleam in Kral Vor's eyes. As he rounded the sleek hull of a Nova-class cruiser, a flicker of movement caught his eye. Zora emerged from the shadows, her skin pulsing with an intensity he'd never seen before. The starlight in her hair seemed to dance frantically, matching the urgency in her eyes. "Jake," she whispered, her voice tight. "We need to leave. Now." Before he could respond, the showroom's emergency alarms blared to life. Red lights bathed the room in an ominous glow as the building went into lockdown. "What's happening?" Jake asked, his heart racing. Zora's eyes darted to the main entrance. "It's Kral, he's made his move." As if on cue, the massive doors began to buckle under some unseen force. The sound of metal tearing filled the air, drowning out the alarms. "The bonding?" Jake realized, pieces clicking into place. "This is what you meant, isn't it?" Zora nodded, her skin flickering between deep purple and brilliant silver. "My cycle has begun. Kral must have detected it. If he catches me now, during peak resonance, the bond will be irreversible." Jake's protective instincts flared. "Like hell he will. Come on, we're getting out of here." He grabbed her hand, marveling for a split second at the tingling sensation that raced up his arm. There was no time to dwell on it. They sprinted towards the back of the showroom, weaving between starships as the sound of Krell's forces grew louder. "There." Zora pointed to a small, sleek vessel tucked away in a corner. "The Starwaver. It's the fastest ship in the fleet." They skidded to a halt in front of the ship, its obsidian hull seeming to absorb the emergency lights around it. Jake placed his hand on the biometric scanner, praying his salesman credentials would grant them access. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, the entry ramp lowered. "How did you?" Zora began, but Jake cut her off. "Questions later. Get in." They scrambled aboard just as the main doors finally gave way. Kral Vor's imposing figure filled the entrance, flanked by a small army of cybernetically enhanced mercenaries. Jake threw himself into the pilot's seat, his hands flying over the unfamiliar controls. Come on, he muttered, willing the ship to life. Zora slid into the co-pilot's chair, her fingers dancing across the console with inhuman speed. The ship hummed to life, systems coming online in a dizzying array of lights and sounds. "Hold on," Jake yelled as he engaged the engines. The Starweaver shot forward, smashing through the showroom's panoramic windows in a shower of crystalline shards. Zircon Prime's glittering skyline spread out before them as they rocketed into the night sky. But their momentary elation was short-lived. A barrage of energy blasts rocked the ship, nearly sending them into a tailspin. Krell's forces, Zora confirmed, her eyes on the rear sensors. 3 pursuit crafts, heavily armed. Jake gritted his teeth, pushing the Starweaver into a series of evasive maneuvers. The ship responded to his touch with uncanny precision, as if it could read his very thoughts. "This thing flies like a dream," he breathed, narrowly avoiding a volley of plasma torpedoes. Zora's skin pulsed with each near miss, her connection to the ship evident in every movement. The Starweaver is semi-sentient. It's adapting to your piloting style. As they wove through Zircon Prime's towering spires, Jake felt a growing warmth in his chest. It spread through his body, sharpening his senses and heightening his reflexes. He glanced at Zora, seeing a mirror of his own wonder in her opalescent eyes. "You feel it too, don't you?" she asked softly. "The beginning of the bond." Jake nodded, unable to find words for the sensation. It was like nothing he'd ever experienced, a connection that transcended the physical, linking him not just to Zora, but to the ship itself. A massive energy blast rocked the Starweaver, snapping them back to the dire reality of their situation. Warning lights flashed across the console as the ship's shields struggled to regenerate. "We can't outrun them forever," Jake said, his mind racing for a solution. Zora's eyes suddenly lit up. "The Void Nexus. It's our only chance." Jake had heard whispers of the Void Nexus, a treacherous region of space where the very fabric of reality seemed to unravel. Few who entered ever returned. "Are you sure?" he asked, even as he plotted the course. Zara nodded, her expression grim but determined. "It's either that or Kral, and I'd rather face the unknown than become his prize." With a deep breath, Jake pushed the Star Waver to its limits. The stars blurred around them as they approached the edge of Zircon Prime's system. Ahead, space itself seemed to ripple and distort, marking the entrance to the Void Nexus. "Here goes nothing," Jake muttered, plunging the ship into the swirling chaos. The moment they crossed the threshold, reality seemed to fracture. Colors inverted, gravity fluctuated wildly, and time itself seemed to stretch and compress. Jake fought to keep the Star Waver on course, relying as much on instinct as on the flickering instruments before him. Zara's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. The contact sent a surge of energy through them both, stabilizing the ship as they navigated the impossible twists and turns of the Nexus. Behind them, Kral's pursuit ships weren't faring as well. Two of them spiraled out of control, consumed by the void. The third pressed on, but Jake could see its systems failing, unable to adapt to the Nexus's chaotic nature. "We're almost through," Zara shouted over the groaning of the Star Waver's hull. "Just a little further." With a final burst of speed, they shot out of the Void Nexus, emerging into an unfamiliar section of space. Stars they'd never seen before twinkled around them, and in the distance, a massive nebula painted the cosmos in vibrant hues. Jake let out a breathless laugh, the adrenaline slowly fading. "We made it. I can't believe we actually made it." Zara's relief was palpable, her skin glowing with a soft, contented light. But as the immediate danger passed, the reality of their situation began to sink in. "We can never go back," she said quietly. "Kral won't stop hunting us. Not now." Jake nodded, the weight of their decision settling on his shoulders. They were fugitives now, cut off from everything they'd known. But as he looked at Zara, feeling the warmth of their nascent bond, he knew he'd make the same choice again in a heartbeat. "So, where to now?" he asked, a small smile tugging at his lips. Zara's eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Wherever the stars take us, I suppose, as long as we're together." As the Star Weaver glided deeper into uncharted space, Jake and Zara knew their adventure was just beginning. The bond between them was growing stronger by the minute, unlocking potential they'd never dreamed of. And somewhere out there, among the infinite possibilities of the cosmos, their destiny awaited. Little did they know, their escape from Zircon Prime was about to set in motion a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The true test of their bond, and of humanity's place among the stars, was only just beginning. Refuge on the frozen moon. The Star Waver drifted silently through the star-studded void, its obsidian hull reflecting the ethereal glow of the nearby nebula. Inside, Jake and Zara huddled over the navigation console, their faces illuminated by the soft blue light of holographic star charts. "We're running low on fuel," Jake muttered, his brow furrowed in concentration. "And the last jump through the Void Nexus did a number on our systems. We need to find a place to lay low and make repairs." Zara's skin pulsed with a soft, concerned violet. Her starlight hair seemed to dim slightly as she scanned the unfamiliar constellations around them. "There," she said suddenly, pointing to a small, icy moon orbiting a gas giant. "Frigora. It's a neutral trading outpost, home to outcasts and wanderers from across the galaxy. We should be able to blend in there." As they approached a frozen world, Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with the moon's sub-zero temperatures. The bond between him and Zara had been growing stronger by the hour, bringing with it sensations and abilities he could barely comprehend. He could feel her emotions as if they were his own, sense the very life force flowing through her alien body. "Zara," he began hesitantly, "this bond between us, what exactly is it doing to me?" She turned to him, her opalescent eyes shimmering with a mix of wonder and concern. "The Zirconian bonding process is complicated, Jake. It's more than just an emotional connection. It's a fusion of life energies, of genetic potential. Your DNA is literally being rewritten as we speak. Jake's eyes widened. Wait, what? I'm turning into a zirconian. Zara shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. Not exactly. The bond is unlocking latent abilities within your own genetic code. Humans have always had the potential for so much more. This is just accelerating the process. Before Jake could fully process this revelation, the ship's proximity alarms blared to life. A massive crystalline structure loomed before them, emerging from the icy mists of Frigora like some ancient, otherworldly fortress. The Frost Citadel, Zara breathed, her voice filled with awe. I never thought I'd see it in person. As they maneuvered the Starwaver towards the designated landing zone, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The Citadel's crystalline spires seemed to pulse with an inner light, as if the very structure was alive and aware of their presence. They touched down on a landing pad of solid ice, the ship's landing gear adjusting to compensate for the slippery surface. As the entry ramp lowered, a blast of frigid air rushed into the cabin, carrying with it the scent of alien spices and machine oil. Welcome to Frigora, a gravelly voice boomed from outside. State your business or prepare to be ejected back into the void. Jake and Zara exchanged a glance before stepping out onto the icy platform. Before them stood a being unlike any Jake had ever seen. It was vaguely humanoid, but its body seemed to be composed entirely of living crystal, with fractal patterns swirling beneath its translucent surface. I am Christek, Warden of the Frost Citadel, the crystalline being announced. You have entered neutral territory. Your conflicts, your past, they mean nothing here. But tread carefully, for Frigora does not suffer fools or troublemakers lightly. Jake stepped forward, trying to project a confidence he didn't entirely feel. We seek refuge and repairs for our ship. We can pay. Christek's crystalline features shifted, forming what might have been a smirk. Credits are worthless here, Earthling. On Frigora, we deal in secrets and stories. What tale can you offer in exchange for our hospitality? Zara placed a hand on Jake's arm, her touch sending a surge of warmth through him despite the biting cold. We have a story unlike any you've heard before, Warden. A tale of forbidden bonds, of power awakening, and of a hunt that spans the stars themselves. Christek's body pulsed with an inner light, curiosity evident in every facet of his being. Intriguing. Very well, you may enter the Citadel, but be warned, the price of deception here is steep. As they followed Christek into the towering crystal structure, Jake marveled at the impossible architecture around them. Corridors twisted and turned at impossible angles, defying the very laws of physics. Beings from 1,000 worlds bustled about, trading in goods and information from every corner of the galaxy. This place is incredible, Jake whispered to Zara. I've never seen anything like it. She nodded, her eyes wide with wonder. The Frost Citadel exists in a state of quantum flux. It's said that every possible configuration of its structure exists simultaneously. We're just experiencing the version that aligns with our current reality. As they delved deeper into the heart of the Citadel, Jake became acutely aware of the stairs following them. Some were curious, others wary, and a few downright hostile. It was clear that humans were a rarity in this part of space. Christek led them to a vast chamber that seemed to stretch into infinity. At its center stood a swirling vortex of energy, pulsing with every color imaginable. The nexus of narratives, Christek announced. Here, your story will be judged. If it is deemed worthy, you will be granted sanctuary. If not, the crystal being's voice trailed off ominously. Jake swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their fate pressing down on him. He turned to Zara, seeing his own apprehension mirrored in her eyes. But there was something else there too, a fierce determination, a belief in their bond that gave him strength. As they stepped towards the swirling vortex, hand in hand, Jake felt a surge of power unlike anything he'd experienced before. The bond between them flared to life, filling the chamber with a radiant light that outshone even the Nexus itself. Images began to flicker in the vortex, glimpses of their escape from Zircon Prime, of the growing connection between them, of the latent power awakening within Jake's very cells. But it didn't stop there. The Nexus showed visions of what was yet to come, epic battles among the stars, ancient secrets unlocked, and a destiny that would reshape the very fabric of the galaxy. Christek's crystalline form vibrated with excitement. By the cosmic winds, he breathed. Your tale, it's not just a story, it's a prophecy. As the visions faded, leaving Jake and Zara breathless and trembling, a hush fell over the chamber. The various aliens who had gathered to witness the judgment stared at them with a mix of awe and fear. Christek bowed low, his crystalline body catching the light in a dazzling display. The Frost Citadel grants you full sanctuary, he declared. Your ship will be repaired, your needs met. But more than that, we offer you our allegiance in the great conflict to come. Jake's mind reeled, struggling to process everything they'd just experienced. He turned to Zara, seeing the same mix of exhilaration and terror in her eyes that he felt in his own heart. What just happened? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara's skin pulsed with a kaleidoscope of colors, her starlight hair blazing brighter than ever. We've set something in motion, Jake, something bigger than either of us could have imagined. As word of their arrival spread through the Frost Citadel like wildfire, Jake realized that their quest for a simple refuge had become something far more profound. They had found not just a hiding place, but a base of operations, a launching point for a journey that would take them to the very edges of known space and beyond. The bond between them hummed with newfound power, filled with the promise of abilities yet to be unlocked. And somewhere out in the vast, star-studded darkness, Kral Vor's forces were closing in, unaware that the very prey they sought had become the catalyst for a cosmic revolution. As Jake and Zara stood at the heart of the Frost Citadel, surrounded by allies from 1,000 worlds, one thing became crystal clear. Their adventure was only just beginning, and the fate of the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The Quantum Forge. The days following their arrival at the Frost Citadel passed in a blur of frenetic activity. Jake and Zara found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of preparation, their every move watched with a mixture of awe and expectation by the Citadel's diverse inhabitants. As they walked through a twisting corridor that seemed to defy Euclidean geometry, Jake marveled at how quickly their lives had changed. You know, he said to Zara, a week ago my biggest worry was hitting my sales quota. Now we're apparently the key to some cosmic prophecy. Zara's skin shimmered with amusement, her starlight hair weaving intricate patterns in the air. The universe has a way of thrusting greatness upon the unsuspecting, Jake. Though I must admit, even I didn't anticipate this level of intensity. They emerged into a vast chamber unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The walls pulsed with living circuitry, and at the center stood a machine that defied description, part organic, part technological, and partly something else entirely. Welcome, Christek's voice resonated through the chamber, to the Quantum Forge. The crystalline being materialized beside them, his faceted body refracting the ethereal light of the forge. This is where possibility becomes reality, where the very fabric of the cosmos can be reshaped. Jake approached the forge cautiously, feeling a strange resonance with the device. It was as if the machine was calling to him, speaking a language he couldn't quite understand, but innately felt. What exactly does it do? He asked, his voice filled with wonder. Christek's form shifted, displaying complex equations and diagrams within his crystalline structure. The Quantum Forge allows us to manipulate reality at its most fundamental level. With it, we can create technologies beyond imagination, unlock powers thought impossible. Zara stepped forward, her opalescent eyes wide with realization. You believe our bond can be amplified by the forge? It wasn't a question, but Christek nodded nonetheless. The prophecy speaks of a union between species that will unlock the next stage of cosmic evolution. Your bond is the key, but the forge is the lock. Jake felt a mix of excitement and trepidation course through him. So what do we do? Just step inside. Christek's crystalline features arrange themselves into a sullen expression. It is not without risk. The forge will push your bond to its limits, accelerating the fusion of your genetic codes. The power it unleashes could remake you entirely or destroy you both. Jake turned to Zara, seeing his own conflicted emotions mirrored in her eyes. The bond between them pulsed strongly, filled with both fear and an undeniable sense of destiny. "We have to try," Zara said softly, "for the sake of everyone counting on us." Jake nodded, steeling himself for what was to come. Hand in hand, they approached the quantum forge. As they drew near, tendrils of energy reached out to them, caressing their skin with ethereal fingers. "Remember," Christek's voice echoed around them, "the forge responds to intent and emotion as much as physical input. Your bond is your anchor. Hold on to it, no matter what you experience." With a deep breath, Jake and Zara stepped into the heart of the quantum forge. Immediately, the world around them dissolved into a swirling vortex of light and sensation. Jake felt as if he was being unmade, his very atoms pulled apart and rearranged. Through it all, he clung to Zara's presence, feeling her consciousness intertwined with his own. Their memories flowed together: Jake's childhood on Earth, Zara's early years on Zircon Prime, their first meeting at the Starship Emporium. But it didn't stop there. Visions of possible futures cascaded through their joined minds. They saw themselves leading a rebellion against Kral Vor's forces, unlocking ancient technologies that could reshape the galaxy. They witnessed the birth of new hybrid species, the fall of tyrannical empires, and the dawn of a new age of exploration and discovery. As the visions reached a fever pitch, Jake felt something within him change. It was as if a dam had broken, releasing a flood of power he never knew he possessed. He could feel the quantum nature of reality itself, could sense the threads of probability weaving the tapestry of existence. Beside him, Zara was undergoing her own transformation. Her already remarkable abilities were amplifying exponentially. The starlight in her hair became a cascade of cosmic energy, and her skin pulsed with the power of newborn stars. Just when Jake thought he could take no more, when the influx of power and knowledge threatened to overwhelm him completely, everything suddenly snapped into focus. The swirling energies of the forge coalesced around them, and with a blinding flash, the process was complete. Jake and Zara stumbled out of the quantum forge, changed in ways they were only beginning to understand. The chamber around them seemed different too, as if they were perceiving layers of reality that had always been there, but were previously invisible to them. Christek stood before them, his crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "By the cosmic winds," he breathed, "it worked. You've done it." Jake looked down at his hands, watching in awe as energy crackled between his fingers. He could feel the potent power of the cosmos flowing through him, waiting to be shaped by his will. Zara was a sight to behold. Her entire being radiated with a soft, otherworldly light. When she spoke, her voice seemed to carry the harmonies of the universe itself. "We are changed," she said, her tone filled with wonder and determination. "But our purpose remains the same." As if in response to her words, alarms began blaring throughout the Frost Citadel. Christek's form pulsed with urgent patterns. "We have incoming." Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. "It's Kral Vor. He's found us." Jake and Zara exchanged a glance, their newly enhanced bond allowing for instantaneous communication. They knew, without speaking a word, that the time had come to put their newfound powers to the test. "We'll handle this," Jake said, his voice resonating with a confidence he'd never felt before. As they strode towards the Citadel's defense center, the very fabric of reality seemed to bend around them. The hunt that had begun on Zircon Prime was about to become a battle for the fate of the galaxy itself. Kral Vor thought he was chasing down a rogue Zirconian and a human salesman. What he was about to encounter were two beings reforged by the power of the cosmos, standing at the threshold of a new era for all sentient life. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo across the stars, a battle that would determine the course of cosmic evolution itself. And at the center of it all stood Jake and Zara, their bond forged in the heart of the quantum forge, ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them. Cosmic crescendo. The Frost Citadel shuddered under the onslaught of Kral Vor's fleet. Crystalline spires vibrated with each impact, sending showers of prismatic light cascading through the twisting corridors. In the heart of the Citadel's command center, Jake and Zara stood before a holographic display of the battle raging outside. Their technology, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Kristek's voice was tinged with awe and fear. Kral must have made some powerful allies since your escape. Jake's eyes narrowed as he studied the enemy ships. They seemed to shimmer and shift, as if they weren't fully present in this reality. They're using some kind of phase shift technology, he said, the knowledge flowing into his mind from a source he couldn't quite pinpoint. It's making them partially intangible. Zara nodded, her starlight hair pulsing with tactical data. Conventional weapons will be useless against them. We need to think beyond traditional combat. As if in response to her words, Jake felt a surge of power course through him. The quantum forge had changed them both, unlocking abilities that defied explanation. He raised his hand, watching as reality itself seemed to bend around his fingers. I have an idea, he said, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. But it's going to get weird. Zara's skin shimmered with excitement. Weird is our new normal, Jake. Let's do this. They clasped hands, their bond flaring to life with an intensity that made everyone in the command center take a step back. Energy crackled between them, and for a moment, it seemed as if they were looking at the universe through a kaleidoscope of infinite possibilities. By the cosmic winds, Kristek breathed. What are you doing? Jake's voice echoed with power as he replied, We're rewriting the rules of engagement. With a gesture that seemed to tear a hole in the very fabric of space-time, Jake and Zara stepped through a portal of their own creation. They emerged in the void of space, surrounded by the chaos of battle. Kral Vor's flagship loomed before them, a massive construct of dark metal and pulsing energy fields. From the bridge, Kral himself stared in disbelief at the two beings floating in space, unprotected yet unharmed by the vacuum. Impossible, Kral's voice boomed across the comm channels. What have you become? Zara's response was calm, but filled with an authority that seemed to resonate with the very stars around them. We are the next step, Kral. The union of species, of potentials. We are the future you fear. Jake raised his hands, and reality rippled around the enemy fleet. Ships began to phase in and out of existence, their crews trapped in a loop of quantum uncertainty. Last chance, Kral, Jake called out, his voice carrying through the void. Stand down, or face the consequences of meddling with forces beyond your comprehension. For a moment, it seemed as if Kral might actually retreat, but then, with a roar of defiance, he ordered his flagship to open fire. A beam of pure destructive energy lanced out towards Jake and Zara, but instead of dodging, they stood their ground. As the beam approached, they raised their hands in perfect unison. The energy struck an invisible barrier and scattered, transforming into a dazzling display of cosmic fireworks. Threads of possibility spun out from the point of impact, weaving a tapestry of alternate realities. You don't get it, do you, Kral? Jake's voice was almost pitying. We're not just fighting you. We're rewriting the very nature of conflict itself. With a shared thought, Jake and Zara began to move. They danced through space, their movements leaving trails of stardust and quantum potential. As they wove between enemy ships, reality itself began to warp and twist. Krell's fleet found itself trapped in a maze of fractured space-time. Ships collided with alternate versions of themselves, weapons fire looped back on its origin points, and entire sections of the Armada simply winked out of existence. From the Frost Citadel, Kristek and the other inhabitants watched in awe as the battle unfolded like some cosmic ballet. It was war elevated to an art form, a clash not just of technologies, but of fundamental forces. As the conflict reached its crescendo, Jake and Zara came together in the eye of the storm they had created. Their bond pulsed with the power of 1,000 suns, and in that moment, they saw not just this battle, but the shape of all conflicts to come. With a shared breath, they released a wave of pure possibility. It swept through Krell's fleet, through the Frost Citadel, and out into the galaxy beyond. Everywhere it touched, change followed. Weapons turned to flowers, warships became gardens, and the very concept of war itself was rewritten at a quantum level. As the waves subsided, Krell's flagship hung motionless in space. The comm channels crackled to life, and Krell's voice came through, but it was changed. Gone was the arrogance, the hunger for power. In its place was a tone of wonder, of awakening. I understand now, Krell said softly. All this time, I thought I was chasing power. But you've shown me something far greater. You've shown me potential. Jake and Zara exchanged a glance, their bond throbbing with shared emotion. They had won, but not in the way anyone could have predicted. This wasn't a victory of destruction, but of transformation. As they floated back towards the Frost Citadel, hand in hand, the full weight of what they had accomplished began to sink in. They had faced impossible odds and emerged not just victorious, but transcendent. Christek met them at the airlock, his crystalline form pulsing with excitement. You did it, he said, his voice filled with awe. You've changed everything. Jake looked at Zara, seeing the infinity of possibilities reflected in her opalescent eyes. We're just getting started, he said with a smile. As news of the battle spread across the galaxy, carried by quantum entanglement and faster-than-light gossip, a new era dawned. The story of the human and the Zirconian who had rewritten the rules of reality became legend, a tale told in hushed whispers and grand epics alike. But for Jake and Zara, it was only the beginning. The universe stretched out before them, vast and mysterious, filled with wonders yet to be discovered and challenges yet to be faced. Hand in hand, their bond stronger than ever, they stepped forward into the unknown. The cosmic dance continued, and they were its newest, most dazzling partners. As the Frost Citadel faded into the distance, a new chapter in the history of the galaxy began to unfold, and at its heart were two beings who had found in each other not just love, not just power, but the key to unlocking the very secrets of existence itself. The stars twinkled around them, each one a promise of adventures to come. For Jake and Zara, reborn in the crucible of the quantum forge and tested in the fires of cosmic conflict, the journey was far from over. It was, in fact, only just beginning.